Sit back and enjoy 2 hours of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. Japanese macaques entertain themselves by making snowballs. This behavior has been observed especially in groups that live in cold regions, where snow is part of their usual environment. It does not appear to have a clear practical function, but is interpreted as a form of play, suggesting that these primates have complex playful behaviors and the ability to learn socially by imitating other members of the group. An average elephant can hold and store 1 gallon of water in its trunk. This flexible structure works as a multifunctional tool that allows them to drink, shower, and pick up objects with great precision. In addition, the trunk contains thousands of muscles that give it extraordinary strength and control, making it one of the most impressive adaptations in the animal kingdom. Frogs cannot swallow with their eyes open. When they close their eyes, they retract slightly into the head and help push the food down the throat. This mechanism allows them to swallow more efficiently, since they do not have teeth designed for chewing, but instead rely on internal movements to move food. Coffea cherryeriana, discovered in 2008, is the first known coffee plant that does not contain caffeine. This species, native to Central Africa, has sparked interest in the industry due to the possibility of producing naturally decaffeinated coffee without chemical processes. Although it is not cultivated on a large scale, its study could influence future varieties and cultivation methods aimed at new consumption profiles. The name Lego was an abbreviation of the two Danish words leg godt, which mean play well. The company was founded in Denmark in 1932 and began by manufacturing wooden toys before developing the famous plastic bricks. Over time, its building system became universal, allowing pieces from different eras and sets to be combined, which has contributed to its lasting success across several generations. A study conducted in the year 2007 by the Baylor College of Medicine found that magnesium, not calcium, is the key to healthy bones. This mineral plays a role in bone formation and in the regulation of other essential nutrients, helping to maintain bone density and strength. That is why a balanced diet that includes both minerals is essential for long-term bone health. The pineberry is a white strawberry that tastes like pineapple. Its pale color with red seeds makes it easy to distinguish, and its sweet flavor with tropical notes makes it very striking. It is mainly grown in Europe and some areas of America, and although it is less common than the traditional strawberry, it has gained popularity in specialty markets for its unique appearance and different flavor profile. A tiger's tongue is so rough that it can lick flesh down to the bone. This is due to small structures called papillae, covered in keratin, which act like tiny hooks. These allow it to scrape meat from bones and also keep its fur clean by removing dirt and parasites, fulfilling a key dual function for its survival. The first known scissors appeared in ancient Egypt around 1500 before Christ, where simple single-piece metal designs were used. Later, the Romans developed a model more similar to the modern one, with two crossing blades and a central pivot. It takes 17 muscles to smile and 43 to frown. A smile primarily activates muscles like the zygomaticus major, which lifts the corners of the mouth, while frowning involves more areas of the face, including the forehead and the brow. In addition, facial expressions not only communicate emotions, they also influence how others perceive them and can even affect one's own mood. Oysters make pearls to feel better. When a grain of sand or debris gets stuck in their bodies, they relieve the pain and irritation by coating it with multiple layers of nacre. This is a mineral that lines the inside of their shells, and that is how a pearl begins to form. Basically, pearls are like blisters, just much more beautiful. This process can take years and depends on specific water conditions and the health of the mollusk. Today, many pearls are cultivated in a controlled way by carefully inserting a nucleus to stimulate their formation. According to Daniel J. Bicey, a psychiatrist at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, about 2% of the population is considered the sleepless elite. This means they are both night owls and early risers at the same time. The sword-billed hummingbird is the only bird with a beak longer than its body. This adaptation allows it to feed on flowers with very deep corollas that other species cannot reach. To maintain balance during flight, it uses precise and rapid movements, and it often perches with its beak tilted upward. It mainly inhabits Andean regions, where its unique shape gives it access to exclusive nectar sources. During the First World War, Woodrow Wilson kept a flock of 48 sheep on the White House lawn to save money on groundskeepers. The sheep also raised $52,823 for the Red Cross through the auction of their wool. In medieval Germany, married couples could legally settle their disputes through a marital duel. To level the playing field, the man had to fight from inside a hole with one arm tied behind his back. The woman was free to move and was armed with a sack filled with rocks. There are pink bananas called Musa velutina, and they peel themselves when they are ripe. They are often grown as ornamentals, but have a soft and sweet pulp that can be eaten, although the seeds are quite hard and can break a tooth. This plant is native to Southeast Asia and is also valued for its striking flowers. Unlike commercial bananas, its fruits are smaller and naturally split open when ripe, making it easy to see their light-colored interior. After trick photography was developed in 1856, creating headless portraits became a trend that swept through the Victorian era. These images were achieved through techniques such as double exposure or combining negatives, allowing the creation of surprising scenes for the time. This type of photography became popular as visual entertainment and a display of ingenuity, reflecting Victorian society's interest in the strange and the novel in imagery. Women have twice as many nerve receptors as men, which makes them feel pain more intensely. However, they also have a greater tolerance for it. Biological factors such as hormones, especially estrogen, and differences in how the brain processes pain can influence this experience. In addition, cultural and psychological aspects also play a role, as the perception and expression of pain vary between people and contexts. In the Philippines, there is banana ketchup. During the Second World War, there was actually a shortage of tomatoes, so they had to use bananas as a substitute to replace ketchup. It is made from mashed bananas, sugar, vinegar, and spices. Over time, it became a very popular product in the country, especially in local dishes and fast food. Its red color is usually achieved with coloring, since naturally it would have a more yellowish tone. This small and cute dwarf elephant was first seen in Sri Lanka in 2013. It is fully grown but only measures 5 feet in height. This case drew the attention of experts because it could be a rare condition such as dwarfism, observed in very few elephants in the wild. Despite its size, the animal behaved like any other of its species, moving in groups and adapting to its environment without apparent difficulty. Some plants have developed very peculiar ways of attracting the insects that pollinate them. One example is the Rafflesia, known for its appearance and smell similar to that of decaying matter. These characteristics attract flies and other insects, which help in the pollination process. When cats look into your eyes and blink slowly, they are actually trying to tell you that they love you. This gesture is a sign of deep trust, since in the feline world, closing the eyes in front of another implies feeling safe. Some experts recommend returning the slow blink to strengthen that bond. Even among cats, this behavior is used to avoid conflict and convey calm in social situations. The FedEx logo has won more than 40 design awards and was ranked as one of the 8 best logos in the past 35 years. In case you have never noticed, the white arrow in the logo was an intentional design choice, created by combining 2 different fonts. The estimated net worth of Henry Ford would be $200 billion today if he were still alive. His fortune was based on the mass production of automobiles, especially with the Model T, which revolutionized the industry and reduced costs. In addition, he introduced innovative labor practices, such as higher wages, which boosted both productivity and consumption among his own workers. The metallic smell of money is actually the scent of your body's oils breaking down in the presence of iron or copper. You can test this by using a paper towel to pick up a penny and smelling it. There will be no odor at all. This happens because the skin releases compounds that react with the metal, creating that characteristic smell, something that also occurs when handling keys or tools. Interestingly, different metals can produce slight variations in that scent. A penny doubled every day becomes more than $5 million in just 30 days. This growth is based on exponential accumulation, where the last days concentrate most of the money. For example, halfway through the period, only a small fraction of the total has been gathered, but in the final week, the figures increase dramatically. The Earth's day and night cycle is getting longer year after year, and 620 million years ago, a day on Earth lasted only 21.9 hours. This change is mainly due to gravitational interaction with the Moon, which causes a gradual slowdown of Earth's rotation. As a result, days lengthen by just a few milliseconds per century, a process that is almost imperceptible but constant over millions of years. Spain offers citizenship to the descendants of those who came to the Americas to flee the Inquisition. This measure has been especially directed toward descendants of Sephardic Jews expelled in the 15th century, allowing them to apply for nationality under certain requirements. The process includes proof of origin, cultural ties, and in some cases, knowledge of the language, as a way of recognizing a historical chapter and addressing its consequences. In Nashville, Tennessee, there is a fully automated 5-story vending machine that dispenses real cars. This system works like a storage tower, where vehicles are organized vertically and delivered through a robotic mechanism. Buyers use a special token to activate the process and watch as the car descends to the exit. This type of installation was popularized by the company Carvana, which has built similar structures in several cities across the United States. Baby elephants suck their trunks for comfort, just like human babies suck their thumbs. This behavior appears from a very early age and is often observed when they are tired, nervous, or temporarily separated from their mother. It also helps them become familiar with controlling their trunk, a complex tool they will use to feed, communicate, and explore their environment throughout their lives. The United States once tried to buy Greenland in 1946 for $100 million. The proposal was made to Denmark, which administers the island, as part of strategic interests after the Second World War. Although the offer was rejected, it reflects the geopolitical importance of Greenland, especially due to its location in the Arctic and its potential natural resources. Elle King, known for the song X's and O's, is the daughter of actor Rob Schneider. Although she grew up in a family connected to entertainment, she built her music career with her own style that blends rock, country, and blues, gaining recognition for her distinctive voice and her presence in the contemporary music scene. It is believed that a 104-year-old knitter named Grace Brett, who decorated her town with knitted pieces, is the oldest street artist in the world. The only domestic animal not mentioned in the Bible is the cat. In the texts, animals such as sheep, goats, dogs, and donkeys frequently appear, reflecting their importance in everyday life at the time. Cats, although already known in nearby regions such as ancient Egypt, were not a central part of the cultures that gave rise to these writings, which explains their absence in the narratives. There is a forest shaped like a guitar in Argentina. The 7,000 trees were planted by a farmer named Pedro Martín Ureta. He planted them in 1979 as a tribute to his late wife. He has never been able to see it from above himself because he is afraid of flying. Amazonian butterflies drink turtle tears to obtain mineral sodium from them. This behavior, known as lacrophagy, is also observed in other animals that seek scarce minerals in their environment. In the rainforest, where sodium is limited, these butterflies obtain essential nutrients by landing on the turtle's eyes without harming them, taking advantage of an uncommon but valuable source for their biological balance. The first guest to enter Disneyland was college student Dave McPherson. He did not ride any attractions because he had to return to school. He was given a lifetime pass to Disneyland for himself and up to 3 guests. And since then, the pass has been extended to include Disney parks around the world. Snakes and lizards stick out their tongues into the air to capture scent particles. In other words, they smell with their tongues. These particles are carried to the Jacobson's organ, located in the roof of the mouth, where they are analyzed to identify prey, predators, or potential mates. This system allows them to read the environment in a very precise way, even following invisible trails left on the ground or in the air. The stethoscope was invented in France in 1816 by René Laennec because he felt uncomfortable placing his ear on a woman's bare chest to listen to her heart. Instead, he rolled up a sheet of paper to amplify the sound, which led to the first model. Over time, this instrument evolved into an essential tool in modern medicine for examining the heart and lungs. Many Japanese bathrooms have a button that, when pressed, plays the sound of a flush to mask the sound of your own business. This system, known as otohime, was created to offer greater privacy and comfort to users. In addition to this feature, many toilets in Japan include advanced functions such as heated seats, adjustable water jets, and digital controls. Air quality in Beijing became so bad that schools were closed, car travel was restricted, and barbecues were banned. During severe smog episodes, authorities have activated alerts that limit vehicle circulation based on license plates and suspend outdoor activities. These events pushed stricter measures in recent years, such as controlling industrial emissions and transitioning toward cleaner energy in the region. Zach Braff hit a minor for spraying fake paint on his Porsche as part of a prank on the show Punk'd. The scene was removed. In 2012, Health Point Biotherapeutics from Fort Worth, Texas, developed a portable spray-on skin that can heal severe wounds much faster. The spray-on skin is actually made of skin cells suspended in a mixture of different types of proteins. Thousands of books available on Amazon have been generated using automated systems, especially in very specific categories such as technical reports, market analyses, dictionaries, and learning materials. This type of content is often created from databases and templates that allow books to be produced at large scale in a very short time. One of the pioneers of this approach is Philip M. Parker, a marketing professor who developed a system capable of generating publications in a matter of minutes. In Japan, eating Christmas dinner at KFC is so popular that lines of 2 hours form in some places waiting to get in. This tradition began after a successful KFC advertising campaign in the 1970s, which presented fried chicken as a festive alternative. Today, many people reserve their orders weeks in advance to avoid long waits and secure their holiday meal. Pigeons actually produce milk to feed their young. This substance, known as crop milk, is produced in a part of the esophagus and is rich in proteins and fats, which helps the rapid growth of the chicks. Both the male and the female can produce it, something uncommon in the animal kingdom, and they regurgitate it directly to feed their young during their first days of life. Caramont Farms in Esmont, Virginia, posted a message on its Facebook page looking for volunteers to cuddle with their baby goats. It is no surprise that the sign-up list filled up immediately. Phytophotodermatitis, often referred to as margarita dermatitis or Lyme disease, should not be confused with Lyme disease with a Y. It is a toxic reaction that results from citric acid mixed with sunlight. It can cause second-degree burns and is very painful. The sun is the most perfect sphere ever observed in nature, according to Dr. Jeffrey Kuhn from the University of Hawaii. Precise measurements have shown that its shape is almost completely a perfect sphere, with minimal differences between its equatorial and polar diameter. This uniformity is due to its enormous gravity, which distributes matter very evenly, despite the intense activity occurring on its surface. Bhutan, the most eco-friendly country in the world, once planted 108,000 trees to celebrate the birth of its new prince. Prostitution exists among some penguins and chimpanzees. It was first reported in 1998 by Fiona Hunter, a researcher at the University of Cambridge, and Lloyd Davis from the University of Otago. They were studying the mating patterns of Adelie penguins when they noticed that they engage in exchanges for things like stones or food. The blue whale is one of the loudest animals on the planet. They produce a series of pulses, grunts, and moans, and under good conditions, they can be heard up to 1,000 miles away. These low-frequency sounds travel long distances through the ocean and are mainly used to communicate and locate other individuals. However, increasing noise generated by human activities can interfere with these natural signals. In 2015, a Russian man got drunk with his friends, was declared dead, came back to life in the morgue freezer, and then went out to drink some more. Those Russians, man, just tough. Cases like this, although very rare, are usually related to misdiagnoses in extreme situations, such as severe intoxication or deep states of unconsciousness. These incidents have led to stricter medical protocols to confirm death before transferring a person to a morgue. In the early 1900s, two of the largest rivers in the world, the Amazon and the Rio Negro, meet but do not mix and are visually distinct even though they occupy the same body of water. This is due to the different speeds, densities, and temperatures of the rivers. The CIA once created a gun that could fire darts that caused heart attacks when penetrating the skin. The dart left only a small red mark. The poison itself worked quickly and then broke down rapidly afterward. All of this was revealed in 1975 in testimony before Congress. Unlike other planets that take their names from Greek mythology, the moons of Uranus are named after characters from the works of William Shakespeare. These include Umbriel, Cordelia, and Ariel. The tradition of naming them this way was established in the 19th century, also incorporating some references to poems by Alexander Pope, making Uranus unique in its naming system within the solar system. In 1986, Soviet pilot Alexander Lukyov made a bet with a co-pilot that he could land a plane blind. So he covered the cockpit windows and crashed the plane on a runway, killing 70 out of 87 passengers. There are certain things you just do not bet on. That is one of them. Phil Collins' song Sussudio was based on a completely made-up word. When he could not think of real lyrics to complete the line, he simply kept it as the chorus and title. A study conducted by Iris Blandon Gitlin from California State University, Fullerton, showed that a lie will be more convincing if you have to urinate while telling it, due to a phenomenon called the inhibitory spillover effect. Focusing on controlling your bladder also allows you to focus on hiding any signals you might show while lying. Thousands of condoms were given to soldiers for D-Day. Most of them were used to keep their rifles dry. There is a biological reason why we cannot resist puppy dog eyes. Sustained eye contact significantly increases oxytocin levels in both humans and dogs, which in turn fosters trust, love, and bonding. This response is not even found in hand-raised wolves, suggesting that humans and dogs may have co-evolved to share this trait in order to be companions. Samsung, the manufacturer of televisions, appliances, and of course mobile phones, started as a grocery store. It was founded in South Korea in 1938 as a small business that traded products such as dried fish, noodles, and other foods. Over time, the company diversified into sectors such as electronics, construction, and technology, eventually becoming one of the largest and most influential conglomerates in the world. In ostriches, their powerful and long legs can cover from 10 to 16 feet in a single stride. Their legs can also be formidable weapons. In fact, an ostrich's kick can kill a human or a potential predator like a lion. These birds are also extremely fast, reaching high speeds when running, making them among the fastest on land. Their strength and speed are key for defense and escape in their natural environment. In the 19th century, Americans intentionally filled their parks with squirrels for entertainment purposes. Before that, they were rarely found outside forests. In cities like New York and Philadelphia, thousands of squirrels were released to make urban spaces more pleasant and bring nature closer to people. Over time, these animals adapted so well to the urban environment that they are now a common presence in many parks across the United States. In the Nuremberg trials, several Nazi leaders achieved genius-level scores on an intelligence quotient test. During these post-Second World War proceedings, psychological evaluations were conducted on some of the defendants, including intelligence tests. The results showed that several had high cognitive abilities, which led to debates about the relationship between intelligence, personality, and human behavior in complex historical contexts. Adding cold cream to your coffee actually keeps it hot for longer compared to black coffee alone. This happens because the cream reduces the rate at which heat escapes, forming a slight layer that limits evaporation on the surface. In addition, by lowering the initial temperature slightly, the difference with the environment is reduced, which makes subsequent cooling slower. According to tornado researcher Tom Grzoulis, about 75% of all tornadoes occur within the United States. This is largely due to unique geographic conditions, where warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico collides with cold, dry air from the north. Regions such as the so-called Tornado Alley concentrate a large portion of these phenomena, especially during spring. Teratoma tumors can develop hair, teeth, organs, and limbs, and scientists do not fully understand why they form. They originate from germ cells capable of becoming different types of tissue, which explains the variety of structures that can appear. Although their appearance is striking, many teratomas are benign and can be effectively treated with medical intervention when necessary. When Janet, the wife of 33 years of 70-year-old farmer Winston House, died suddenly, he decided he wanted to create a lasting tribute for her. So he planted thousands of oak saplings in a 6-acre field and left a heart-shaped tip pointing toward her childhood home. Viganella, Italy, is cut off from direct sunlight for 83 days during the winter due to the surrounding mountains, so they installed a giant, computer-controlled mirror on top of the mountain to reflect sunlight onto the village. The average person blinks about 12 times per minute. That is about 10,000 blinks on average per day. This movement helps keep the eyes lubricated, remove particles, and protect the surface of the eye. Interestingly, the frequency can decrease when we are focused, such as when using screens, which can cause dry eyes and the need to blink more deliberately. Japan kept a train station called Kaiyu Shirataka on the island of Hokkaido operating for just one girl. Yes, one girl, so that she could attend school every day. The train only made 2 stops, one when the only high school student went to school, and the other when she returned. Cockroaches are not the most resistant insect when it comes to surviving nuclear radiation. It has been shown that insects such as the flower beetle have greater resistance to nuclear radiation. This is partly due to their life cycles and the speed at which their cells divide, since organisms with slower cell division tends to be less vulnerable to this type of damage, giving them an advantage in extreme conditions. Russian criminals used to tattoo images of Lenin and Stalin on themselves because there was a common belief that communist firing squads were not allowed to shoot at an image of their leaders. Social anxiety disorder is the third most common mental disorder in the United States, just after depression and alcohol dependence. It usually begins in adolescence and can affect everyday activities such as public speaking or interacting with other people. Despite its frequency, many people do not seek help, even though effective treatments exist such as therapy and, in some cases, medication support. Dinosaurs often swallowed large rocks. These rocks stayed in their stomachs and helps them grind food. These stones, known as gastroliths, served a function similar to an internal grinder, facilitating the digestion of tough plants in herbivorous species. They have also been found in modern animals such as birds and some reptiles, suggesting that this mechanism has been an effective strategy for millions of years. In Brooklyn, New York, entrepreneur Nina Keneally established a business called I Need a Mom that you can call and literally rent a mom for $40. She listens to you, gives you advice, cooks, and helps you with chores. A kitchen faucet would need to be fully open for at least 45 years to match the amount of blood pumped by the heart in an average lifetime. The human heart beats thousands of times per day and moves enormous volumes of blood constantly, allowing oxygen and nutrients to be carried throughout the body. Over decades, this continuous work reflects the impressive endurance and efficiency of this vital organ. The deepest lake in the world is Lake Baikal in Siberia. It is more than 5,380 feet deep and is also the freshwater lake with the greatest volume on Earth, containing nearly 20% of the world's unfrozen fresh water. In addition, it is one of the oldest lakes on the planet, with millions of years of age, and it hosts a great diversity of unique species that are not found anywhere else. Villagers in the Indian town of Marathial began playing chess as an alternative to drinking after an alcohol ban. The town is now known as the Chess Village due to its nearly 100% chess literacy. Studies have suggested that gifted people often have poor handwriting because their brains tend to work faster than their hands. Okay, I literally have the worst handwriting in the world, so I will take that compliment. A golden retriever from Michigan named Wesley was fitted with braces when he could not close his mouth or chew properly due to his crooked teeth. The treatment was performed by a veterinarian specializing in animal dentistry, with a goal of correcting alignment and improving his quality of life. Within a few weeks, the dog showed a noticeable improvement, being able to eat normally and without discomfort. Gabe Balfour from Cortez, Colorado, built the doggone vacuum truck. It is used to suck prairie dogs out of their burrows. The University of Southern Queensland found that facial hair can block up to 95% of the sun's harmful ultraviolet rays. That helps a lot in protecting you from cancer. Look at that, so much protection. The indigenous Sami people of Norway have the tradition of castrating reindeer with their teeth. An advertising watchdog group called Truth in Advertising, or TINA, reportedly found that more than 100 Walmart products were labeled as made in the United States when they were actually manufactured elsewhere. Large dogs age faster and die younger than small dogs, and scientists are still not sure why this happens. During the Second World War, several aviators managed to survive after being shot down during combat missions. 8 of them were captured by enemy forces and faced extremely harsh conditions. The 9th aviator was George H.W. Bush, who managed to survive his fall into the ocean and was later rescued safely. Australian researchers at the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization discovered that drinking a cup of Asian pear juice before consuming alcohol resulted in fewer hangover symptoms or reduced symptoms the next day. Right after her husband of 67 years died, a woman named Norma from Michigan was diagnosed with cancer. Instead of receiving treatment, she told the doctor, "I am 90 years old. I am hitting the road." And she set off on an open-ended road trip across the United States with her retired son and his wife. In 2015, a man named Torkel Christophers was arrested for kidnapping when his neighbors did not recognize him with his new beard, which he had grown while taking time off work. A Greek stowaway cat once flew in the landing gear of an Airbus A321 from Athens to Zurich. It had a concussion and hypothermia, but incredibly survived. Thousands of microscopic mites are living on your face right now. There are two species, Demodex folliculorum, which resides in your pores and hair follicles, and Demodex brevis, which settles deeper in the oily sebaceous glands of your face. At the height of the Cold War, the United States spent millions of dollars to supply Afghan schoolchildren with textbooks filled with violent imagery and militant Islamic teachings as part of covert efforts to stimulate resistance to the Soviet occupation. Coral is actually an animal, not a plant. It is made up of colonies of small organisms called polyps, which live in calcium structures that they produce themselves. These animals maintain a symbiotic relationship with microscopic algae that provide them with energy through sunlight, which explains why reefs are usually found in clear, shallow waters. Wu Xia from China made both an ex-girlfriend and his current girlfriend jump off a bridge into a river to see which one he would rescue. He rescued his current girlfriend. In rural areas of China, hiring strippers to perform at funerals was a common practice in order to attract mourners. It was not until 2015 that it was finally banned. The Like a Hug jacket gives you a hug every time a friend likes one of your Facebook posts. The letters PT in the PT Cruiser stand for personal transport. There is a battery-powered bell at the University of Oxford that has been ringing continuously for more than 175 years. No one knows what the battery is made of, and no one wants to take the device apart to find out. This experiment, known as the Oxford Electric Bell, runs on a sealed battery that has intrigued scientists for generations. Its low energy consumption has allowed it to continue operating almost without interruption since the 19th century. Napoleon once removed the Mona Lisa from the Louvre so he could hang it on the wall of his bedroom. During his rule, access to works of art was more tied to power than to the public, and this painting by Leonardo da Vinci was displayed in private spaces before becoming a central piece of the museum. According to a study of surgical residents participating in the Rosser Top Gun laparoscopic and suturing skills program, surgeons who play video games make 37% fewer errors and complete tasks 27% faster. Video game skills are a strong indicator of surgical skills, unless you are playing Surgeon Simulator, in which case that guy is going to die. The sea anemone looks like a beautiful flower, but it is actually a marine creature that uses tentacles loaded with venom to stab passing victims with a paralyzing neurotoxin, leaving them defenseless. These tentacles are covered with specialized cells called nematocysts, which activate at the slightest contact. Some species also maintain symbiotic relationships with fish, such as clownfish, which can live among their tentacles without being harmed, gaining protection in exchange for cleaning and food. Despite being a millionaire, Steve Jobs only paid $500 a month in child support to his daughter Lisa. Yes, that is the same girl he named the computer after, but he still tried to deny paternity. Until 1992, it was not mandatory for electrical appliances in Great Britain to be sold with plugs at the end of their cords. Consumers often had to connect them themselves. The word "prolly," the informal pronunciation of probably, originated in the 1940s. Troll dolls were originally created in 1959 by Danish fisherman and woodcarver Thomas Dam. Dam could not afford a Christmas gift for his daughter Lila and decided to carve a doll from his own imagination. Other children in the Danish town of Gjol saw the troll doll and decided they wanted one. The rest is history. When Don Carcos fought in the Second World War, he was hit by shrapnel that blinded his right eye. 64 years later, while working in a stable, a horse headbutted him in the exact same spot, threw him against a wall, and suddenly restored his vision. Thanks, little horse. If your parents or grandparents have a history of multiple cavities or dentures at an early age, you have a higher risk of the same due to genetics. Factors such as enamel composition, tooth shape, and saliva production can be inherited and affect oral health. Even so, habits such as good dental hygiene, regular checkups, and a balanced diet can make a significant difference in prevention. There are more neurons lining your stomach than there are in your spinal cord, which is why your digestive system can function without needing your brain. In fact, when you are flooded with emotion, the neurons react and you get a gut feeling. This system is known as the enteric nervous system and can operate independently to control digestion. In addition, it maintains constant communication with the brain through the vagus nerve, which influences mood and certain emotional responses. Narwhal skin is an important source of vitamin C for the Inuit people. Ounce for ounce, there is almost as much vitamin C in narwhal skin as in an orange. This food, known as muktuk, is eaten raw or frozen and is an essential part of the traditional diet in Arctic regions, where fresh fruits are scarce. In addition to its nutritional value, it also has important cultural significance within Inuit communities. The FBI has begun to give greater importance to cases of animal cruelty, recording them in more detail within its crime tracking systems. This measure is based on studies suggesting that animal abuse may be linked to other violent behaviors, so analyzing it helps better understand certain criminal patterns and prevent more serious situations in the future. Alan Dixon, 29 years old, from Ireland, has mastered the art of taking selfies with animals. Although they seem very casual, he sometimes spends hours earning an animal's trust before taking a shot. Our urge to breathe is not due to our need for oxygen, but because our body wants to get rid of carbon dioxide. Receptors in the brain and blood primarily detect the increase of this gas, which triggers the sensation of urgency to breathe. That is why, even if there is enough oxygen available, the buildup of carbon dioxide is what triggers the immediate need to inhale. David Hasselhoff has a 14-foot-tall replica of himself from the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Photographer Andrew Suriono was about to put away his camera due to the rain when he noticed an orangutan using a leaf as shelter. He quickly took this photo, which earned him an honorable mention in the National Geographic Photography Contest in 2015. President Franklin D. Roosevelt collapsed while he was being painted. He never regained consciousness before dying, and that is how this unfinished painting was created, capturing his last moment awake. The portrait was made by artist Elizabeth Shumatoff, who was working on it at that exact moment. The work was left as it was, becoming a unique record of his final minutes of life. According to new research published in the journal Computers and Human Behavior, the act of phubbing, or phone snubbing, is a very real epidemic in the United States. Phubbing is the act of ignoring someone in a social situation by looking at your phone instead of paying attention to them, and it can damage your relationships and even lead to severe depression and lower life satisfaction. In 2009, 3 masked thieves unknowingly broke into the home of Swedish actor Dolph Lundgren and tied him up, then threatened his wife, but immediately fled when they found a family photo and realized who owned the house. He was probably like, "I will find you." And they were like, "Yeah, okay, we are leaving." George Washington was so afraid of being buried alive that he asked his staff to wait 2 days after his death before burying him. This precaution was relatively common in his time, when there were no precise medical methods to confirm death. In his will, he left clear instructions about the waiting time, reflecting a widespread concern in the 18th century about avoiding mistakes in burials. Zhao Yang from China was missing for 10 years and was presumed dead, but was later found living in an internet cafe. After running away at the age of 14, she was skilled at the game Crossfire, so other players paid to watch her play, and she lived in internet cafes and public bathrooms until she was found at the age of 24. According to the Guinness World Records, the largest female afro measures 7 inches in height, 8 inches in width, and 52 inches in circumference, and was achieved by Avon Dugas in New Orleans on October 4, 2010. Michael Jordan now earns more money each year than he earned in salary during his entire 15-year career in the NBA. The 15th President of the United States, James Buchanan, bought slaves with his own money in order to free them. Throughout his life, he acquired several enslaved people with the goal of granting them freedom, a practice that was also carried out by some of his contemporaries during that period. The Cool Patch Pumpkins corn maze, covering 148 acres in Dixon, California, is so large that people routinely call 911 for help getting out. That is despite the fact that they even have a map that details every turn and how to exit. Some people, man. The fear of clowns is called coulrophobia and has increased significantly over the past 20 years due to its representation in popular culture and the recent phenomenon of creepy clowns, where people have been dressing as clowns to scare others. There is a rare brain disorder called foreign accent syndrome that causes people to involuntarily speak with foreign accents. It usually appears after neurological injuries such as strokes or trauma, which alter the way the brain coordinates the muscles of speech. Although the person does not actually acquire another language, changes in pronunciation can make their voice sound different. It is a rare phenomenon that has been documented in various countries. Tug of war was once an Olympic sport. It was part of the program of the modern Olympic Games from the late 19th century to the early 20th century, where teams from different countries competed to demonstrate their strength and coordination. Although it was later removed, it is still practiced in traditional events and local competitions, keeping alive a discipline that combines strategy, endurance, and teamwork. This is the invisible treehouse located in Sweden. The exterior walls have mirrors to make the house blend in with the trees. Adopting children is actually considered a taboo in Korea, and because of this, orphans in South Korea are almost never adopted unless a foreigner adopts them. In the past, cultural and social factors influenced this perception, which led to many children being adopted abroad. There's a unique tree near Piedmont, Italy, called the double tree of Casorzo. It is actually two trees in one, a cherry tree growing on top of a mulberry tree. This phenomenon is rare and may have originated when a seed fell onto the top of the other tree and managed to take root there. Recycling one aluminum can saves enough energy to run a television for 3 hours. This is because producing new aluminum from ore requires much more energy than reusing recycled material. In fact, recycling aluminum can save up to about 95% of the original energy, making it one of the most efficient materials to recycle. The Soviets discovered that sniper tasks are actually better suited to women, as female snipers are patient, careful, deliberate, can avoid close combat, and require higher levels of aerobic conditioning than other troops. In the year 2007, Kanye West ordered a curry dish for dinner to be shipped from Wales in the United Kingdom to New York City at a cost of $3,900. The dish itself only cost £19. The rest was the shipping cost. The opposite of déjà vu is jamais vu. It is a French word that means never seen. It is a feeling or experience when a person knows or recognizes a situation, but still feels it as very unfamiliar and unknown. The Daiichi Yoshi Preschool in Japan has a courtyard that collects rainwater into a large, clean puddle where children can stomp and splash. In 1989, a financial analyst from Philadelphia bought an old painting for $4 at a flea market in Adamstown, Pennsylvania, just because he liked the frame. However, hidden behind it was an original Declaration of Independence, which was sold at auction for $2.42 million. Researchers at Oregon State University have patented a strain of seaweed that tastes like bacon when cooked and contains twice the nutritional value of kale. This variety was originally developed as food for abalone, but it gained attention for its flavor and protein value. In addition, it grows quickly and requires few resources, making it an interesting option among sustainable food alternatives. According to National Geographic, the Beelzebufo frog, or devil frog, may have been the largest frog that ever existed. These extinct amphibians, about the size of a beach ball, grew up to nearly 1.5 feet long and weighed approximately 10 pounds. Saudi Arabia is the largest country in the world without a river. Despite this, it has developed advanced desalination systems to obtain water from the sea and supply its population. It also depends on underground aquifers and large distribution infrastructures. These solutions have made it possible to sustain modern cities in a desert environment where rainfall is scarce and permanent bodies of water are practically non-existent. There is a golf course in Brisbane, Australia, with adult bull sharks living in the water hazards. These sharks became trapped in the lake after floods connected the course with nearby rivers, and they have managed to adapt to the freshwater environment. Over time, they became a local curiosity, and the place even implemented safety measures and signage for those who play near the water. The Taxi Fabric project in Mumbai, India, allows emerging designers to reupholster and completely transform taxi interiors. In the late 1990s, the Coca-Cola company began testing a vending machine that could automatically increase the prices of its drinks in hot weather. The idea was based on adjusting prices according to demand, since on hot days, people tend to buy more soft drinks. However, the proposal generated criticism for being considered unfair, which led the company to not implement the system on a large scale. Disney placed 500 stormtroopers on the Great Wall of China to promote Star Wars: The Force Awakens. The campaign was carried out as a massive visual event that caught the attention of tourists and international media, combining a cultural icon with one of the most recognized film franchises. These strategies are part of global promotions designed to generate impact and anticipation before the release of major productions. A study published in a neuroscience journal found that anxiety disconnects the prefrontal cortex, a region of the brain that plays an important role in flexible decision-making. In the 1960s, in the Black Rock Desert of Nevada, an electric company accidentally created Fly Geyser. They did this by drilling into a geothermal pocket that released a flow of oil, water, and calcium deposits. Today, it is a vibrant and living sculpture that is constantly evolving due to the colorful algae in the water. The Japanese company YKK manufactures approximately half of the zippers in the world. Check your jeans. There is probably one there right now. Photographer Hallgrimur Helgason captured stunning images of the northern lights over Iceland that show the moment they formed the outline of a phoenix. On March 26, 1976, Queen Elizabeth sent her first email. The message was transmitted through ARPANET, the precursor to the modern internet. She is considered the first head of state to have used email. In 2014, a woman named Nancy Cohen was moved to a nursing home. Her cat Cleo was relocated elsewhere, but 2 weeks later appeared at the facility, even though she had never been there before. She began spending time around the area until someone recognized her, and since then, they were reunited and able to stay together again. Because Alaska has up to 20 hours of sunlight per day, they can grow gigantic produce, including cabbages weighing 137 pounds, melons weighing 64 pounds, and broccoli weighing 35 pounds. The long exposure to light during the summer allows plants to photosynthesize for more hours each day, which accelerates their growth. In addition, the cool temperatures help crops develop more slowly but steadily, favoring unusually large sizes. In 2003, 2 men stole a Boeing 727 from an Angolan airport and were never seen again. The plane took off without authorization from Luanda Airport and disappeared from radar shortly after, triggering an international search. Despite the efforts, no conclusive evidence of its whereabouts was ever found, making the case one of the most intriguing aviation mysteries of recent decades. You can pay to go on expeditions with National Geographic to exotic places such as Antarctica. These trips usually include expert guides, scientists, and photographers who offer an educational experience in addition to tourism. The itineraries can range from wildlife observation to the study of unique ecosystems, allowing participants to closely experience remote environments that are normally inaccessible to most people. After its tourism sector boomed, the foreign minister of Kazakhstan thanked Sacha Baron Cohen in 2012 for the release of Borat, after the country saw a tenfold increase in visas issued. Wow, nice. Polish teenager Iga Jessica unexpectedly woke up in the middle of her brain surgery and calmly asked the doctor how everything was going. Surprisingly, she did not feel any pain, so they talked about cats until the surgery ended. Your senses of smell and taste begin to improve dramatically 48 hours after quitting smoking. This happens because nerve endings begin to recover once exposure to chemicals from tobacco decreases. In the following days, many people notice more intense flavors and more defined aromas, which can also influence appetite and how they enjoy food. The Starbucks logo in Saudi Arabia was temporarily modified in the early 2000s, showing only the crown of the siren instead of the full figure. This adaptation responded to local cultural sensitivities related to the representation of human figures. Over time, the brand returned to its original logo globally, including the siren, so today it uses the same image as in most countries. Boeing has created a new metal called microlattice that is 99.99% air. So light, in fact, that the metal can sit on top of a dandelion without crushing it. This material is made of a microscopic network of hollow tubes that distribute weight extremely efficiently. Despite its lightness, it can absorb impacts and withstand compression, so it is being studied for use in aeronautics in advanced structures where reducing weight is key. Elephant can die of a broken heart. If its partner dies, it may refuse to eat or lie down, shedding tears until it dies of starvation. Mourning behaviors have been observed in herds, such as staying near the remains or returning to the site for days. They may also show apathy and isolation, which affects their health. Their strong social bonds and memory make these losses have a profound impact on their behavior and well-being. Potatoes have almost all the nutrients humans need to survive. To prove it, the chief executive officer of the Washington State Potato Commission ate nothing but potatoes for 60 days and was perfectly fine. Potatoes. Mash them, boil them, put them in a stew. Apple Computers was actually formed by 3 people, not 2. Ronald Wayne was the third co-founder, but in less than a couple of weeks, he left the company. On April 12, 1976, Wayne sold his 10% share in the company for $800. Today, that stake in the company would be worth $62.93 billion. In 2015 in Colorado, a mysterious teenager regularly broke into homes to steal snacks, specifically Hot Pockets, and watch people's Netflix. He literally did not steal cash or valuables, only snacks and Netflix. On the Norwegian island of Spitsbergen, located inside a mountain, is the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, which houses more than 850,000 seed samples from around the world in case a global catastrophe occurs. This is a plantable pencil. The pencil actually has a seed inside it, and when it becomes too short to use, you can plant it and watch it grow into herbs and vegetables. According to Guinness World Records, the long-distance archery world record is held by American archer Matt Stutzman, who, despite not having arms, has developed a unique technique using his feet and torso to shoot with great precision, becoming a remarkable example of skill, discipline, and perseverance. Scientists have discovered that there are actually 5 tastes that your tongue can recognize. They are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. Parmesan cheese is an example of umami. This taste is associated with compounds such as glutamate, naturally present in foods like ripe tomatoes, mushrooms, and cured meats, and it usually provides a deep and lasting sensation that enhances the overall flavor of dishes. There is an annual photography contest called the Comedy Wildlife Photography Awards. Entries consist of the funniest photos of wild animals that photographers have captured accidentally or intentionally throughout their careers. Replacement dates on bottled water are actually for the bottle, not the water it contains. Over time, the plastic can degrade and release small amounts of compounds that alter the taste and quality of the water, especially if it is exposed to heat or sunlight. That is why it is recommended to store it in cool places and consume it within a reasonable period to maintain optimal conditions. Taco Bell secretly reduced the sodium content in 33 menu items by 33%, and no one noticed. Yellow snow is not the only snow you should not eat. According to a new study published in the journal Environmental Science, Processes and Impacts, all snow can be harmful because it attracts particles from car exhaust like a magnet. Basically, when you eat snow, you are consuming a popsicle of pollution. Novice climbers are not allowed to climb Mount Everest, according to the Assistant Secretary of Nepal's Ministry of Tourism. To qualify to climb it, one must have reached the summit of at least one 4-mile-high mountain in their lifetime. The last individual of a species is called an endling. When it dies, the species becomes extinct. This term is used in conservation to describe a critical and symbolic moment, as it represents the point of no return for that form of life. Some endlings have been documented and have become reminders of the importance of protecting biodiversity, driving scientific and environmental efforts to prevent more species from reaching that point. It is a social mistake in Russia to give your date a dozen roses. An odd number of flowers is given for a happy occasion and an even number for condolences. This tradition is deeply rooted and applies to all kinds of celebrations, from dates to birthdays. Odd numbers are associated with life and good fortune, so giving 3, 5, or 7 flowers is seen as an appropriate and thoughtful gesture in positive contexts. Rotterdam in the Netherlands will have a floating forest. They are taking 20 trees that were removed due to urban development and placing them on boats along the waterfront. A study from the Cornell Food and Brand Lab with 497 diners showed that customers who ordered their dinner from an overweight server ordered significantly more food, were 4 times more likely to order dessert, and ordered 17% more alcohol. The Lion King was originally called King of the Jungle, until the Disney team learned that lions do not live in the jungle. The concept was later adjusted to better reflect the African savanna, where these animals actually live. This change helped give more coherence to the story and the visual design of the film The Lion King, which became one of the studio's biggest successes. Mosquitoes survive the impact of raindrops by using a Zen approach of non-resistance. Instead of opposing the force of impact, their low weight causes them to move with the drop rather than being crushed, reducing the damage. In addition, their wings and reaction ability allow them to stabilize quickly after contact, helping them continue flying even in rainy conditions. This is a statue titled Politicians Discussing Global Warming, located in Berlin. The work shows partially submerged figures, symbolizing inaction in the face of rising sea levels. It is located near the Spree River and aims to provoke reflection on climate change and political decision-making. Its visual impact has made it a frequent spot for photographs and public discussion. The company Nestle acknowledged serious issues in its supply chain in Thailand related to inadequate labor practices in the fishing industry that supplied some of its products. such as the Fancy Feast brand. This case raised international concern and led the company to implement measures to improve oversight and promote fairer working conditions. There is a 230-foot-long organ on the coast of Zadar, Croatia. The organ, designed by architect Nikola Basic, has 35 pipes that make music every time waves crash into them. The legendary horror writer R.L. Stine began by writing comics for Bazooka Joe Bubblegum under the pseudonym Jovial Bob Stine. According to the United States Coast Guard Air Station in Traverse City, Lake Michigan can become so clear after winter ice melts that you are able to see shipwrecks 299 feet underwater. There are special containers in Mexico City where you can put your dog's waste and, in return, get free Wi-Fi. In fact, the more waste, the more free Wi-Fi time you get. Some of the largest spiderwebs in the world are built by Anelosemus eximius, a species of social spider that works together in communities. More than 50,000 spiders can live in a single web until it eventually becomes too small and they have to form new colonies. Mental note: do not go to the country where those things exist. When sanitary pads were first invented, they were held in place with a belt. These systems included adjustable straps that kept the pad in place before modern adhesives were introduced. Over time, the design evolved into more comfortable and discreet products, incorporating advanced absorbent materials and ergonomic shapes that significantly improved the experience and personal hygiene. In wealthy countries, obesity is more common among the less educated, but in poorer countries, obesity is common among the highly educated. This difference is often related to access to food, consumption habits, and lifestyle in each context. In wealthier environments, education can influence health decisions, while in developing economies, excess weight may be associated with higher purchasing power and shifts in traditional diets toward more processed foods. The creator of the Muppets, Jim Henson, believed in allowing a character to grow organically. His guiding philosophy was that each Muppet had a distinct personality. In fact, he believed it was the puppeteer's job to discover it. Apples originated in Kazakhstan, and wild apples can taste like roses, strawberries, popcorn, and many other flavors. In fact, 90% of modern apples can be traced back to 2 trees. This diversity comes from the wild species Malus sieversii, which still grows in that region and has a wide genetic variety. Over time, human selection favored certain flavors and characteristics, giving rise to the commercial varieties that are now grown worldwide. NASA has extremely fast data connections that can reach tens or even hundreds of gigabits per second, far beyond a typical home connection. It uses advanced scientific networks, such as the Energy Sciences Network, designed to transfer massive volumes of information between research centers, satellites, and supercomputers around the world. These specialized networks allow large-scale data handling with great efficiency, which explains why their speeds can far exceed those of commercial internet. It can take between 90 and 120 minutes just to boil an ostrich egg. This is due to its enormous size and the density of its shell, which is much thicker than that of a chicken egg. A single egg can equal several dozen regular eggs, so it also requires more time to cook evenly, especially if a fully cooked interior is desired. The longest mathematical proof in history has 15,000 pages, involved more than 100 mathematicians, and took more than 30 years to complete. That is why I hate calculus. Rabbits eat their own feces every day. They produce a special type of feces called cecotropes, or night droppings, which are rich in nutrients and leave the body like normal feces, but are slightly different. They can then be safely consumed again by the rabbit so that important nutrients can be reabsorbed. The phrase "bless you" after a sneeze comes from Pope Gregory VII in the 14th century, who asked that it be said after each sneeze to protect against the plague. In the year 2002, actor Vin Diesel saved an entire family from a burning car accident. The incident occurred on a highway in Los Angeles, where the vehicle overturned and caught fire after a collision. The actor stopped, helped pull out the trapped passengers, including children, and brought them to safety before the fire spread, in a quick intervention that prevented greater consequences. Andre the Giant died on the night of January 27, 1993, in a hotel room in Paris. Coincidentally, he was in Paris to attend his own father's funeral. The company's Second Chance Coffee in Illinois conducts FBI background checks to ensure that those seeking employment at the company have actually been in prison, because the company only hires former convicts. A toxic lagoon in the Buxton Quarry in England was dyed black for safety. The previous color of the water, a beautiful blue, was so attractive that warning signs did not keep swimmers away. This color was due to chemicals present in the water, with levels of alkalinity that were dangerous for the skin and eyes. Even so, for years it continued to attract visitors, which led to more drastic measures to discourage people. In 1936, the founder of Adidas, in an attempt to market his shoes, drove to the Olympics and persuaded American sprinter Jesse Owens to wear them. After Owens won 4 medals, letters arrived from other national teams around the world interested in buying his shoes. By World War II, they were selling 200,000 pairs per year. It would take several years to watch all the content shared on Snapchat in just 1 hour in the United States, due to the enormous amount of photos and videos that millions of people post every minute. A group of bears is called a sloth of bears. This term comes from English and is mainly used in formal contexts or linguistic curiosities, although in practice it is not common to see many bears gathered in large groups. Most species are solitary, except during mating season or when there is an abundance of food, such as in salmon fishing areas. A company called Vestergaard Fransen in Europe launched the Life Straw in 2006, which makes contaminated water safe to drink. Users simply have to suck contaminated water through it as they would with any regular straw. Without using batteries or chemicals, it removes 99.9% of parasites, 99.9% of viruses, and provides one person with a year's supply of drinking water for only $20. In 1932, Winston Churchill received a prescription for alcohol to bypass American prohibition after being struck by a car in New York City. His doctor concluded that the solution for what afflicted the future prime minister was no less than 6 doses of alcohol with each meal, although he was allowed to consume even more if he wished. A 17-year-old refugee named Aslan al-Hakim refused to leave his puppy Rose in Syria during the refugee crisis and carried her for more than 300 miles to safety. In the 1950s, psychologist Frederick Wortham published the book Seduction of the Innocent, in which he analyzed the impact of comic books on young people and expressed controversial opinions about popular characters such as Batman, Robin, and Superman. His ideas generated intense debate at the time and contributed to changes in the comic industry, such as the creation of content regulation codes. The deepest, darkest, oldest, and quietest motel room in the world is 230 feet underground, in the Grand Canyon Caverns, inside a 65-million-year-old cave. A grandmother in Vicenza, Italy, accidentally sent 2 adults and 3 children to the hospital when she prepared chocolate using packages that expired back in 1990. When it was first released, there was much debate about the identity of the unknown wizard on the back cover of the first edition of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Illustrator Thomas Taylor later revealed that he based it on his father after being told to draw a wizard to decorate the back cover. Sitting on a sea turtle is, in fact, a third-degree felony. This is because sea turtles are protected by strict environmental laws in several countries, as many species are endangered. Interfering with them, especially during sensitive moments such as resting or nesting, can cause harm or stress. Authorities usually impose severe penalties to discourage this type of behavior and protect their conservation. Steven Tyler estimates that he spent at least $5 or $6 million on cocaine throughout his life. Over time, the Aerosmith singer managed to overcome his addiction problems and has spoken openly about his recovery process, using his experience to warn about the risks of substance use. Watching your favorite movie over and over again is good for you. Repetition calms you because knowing the outcome of a story helps you feel safe in an unpredictable world. This habit can create a sense of control and reduce anxiety, especially during stressful times. In addition, rewatching the same story allows you to notice new details or reconnect with positive emotions, which reinforces emotional well-being in a simple way. In 2015, Croatia launched a program called Fresh Start, which eliminated the debts of 60,000 low-income Croatians who had struggled to pay their bills. In an effort to boost consumer confidence and spending, the government, along with companies and banks, agreed to forgive up to 60,000 kunas, or $8,830 per individual. Many old movie theaters used to have something called crying rooms, where you could literally take your children if they were becoming disruptive. That way, you could still enjoy the movie without disturbing other viewers. These rooms were soundproof and had windows or audio systems that allowed you to follow the film. They were also used in theaters and churches as a practical solution for families with small children. Canada consumes the most donuts and has the highest number of donut shops per capita of any country in the world. This popularity is closely tied to coffee culture, where it is common to pair it with a donut in the daily routine. Chains like Tim Hortons have played a key role in this tradition, becoming common meeting points in many communities and reinforcing the habit across the country. At one point during the Geneva Summit of 1985, Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev agreed to pause the Cold War in the event of an alien invasion. Although the idea was mentioned hypothetically, it reflected how, even in the midst of global tensions, there was a notion of possible cooperation in the face of a common threat to humanity. Most Americans are supposed to voluntarily declare and pay state taxes on goods purchased online from out-of-state sellers. Accountants and tax attorneys are among the only people who actually pay them. There is a spray that makes everything smell like a cat's head. It is known that cat owners compare the smell of their cat's head to the scent of sunlight or freshly baked bread. So, of course, a company in Japan spent 4 months sniffing cats to bottle the essence. In developing countries, beehive fences are used to deter elephants by taking advantage of their natural fear of bees. They have worked, reducing human-elephant conflicts by more than 80%. After World War II, some stimulant substances came to be used for medical purposes, even as aids for weight loss. Over time, their health risks became better understood, which led to them being regulated and restricted in many countries by the 1970s. The Coast Guard trained pigeons to help find people lost at sea. They sat in a dome attached to a helicopter, pressing a lever after spotting life rafts or debris. And, believe it or not, they had a 90% success rate in initial tests. In 1893, the first graduating class of New Mexico State University had one student. His name was Sam Steele, and he was murdered before graduation. High school student Hayden Godfrey started working multiple jobs, saved his money for 1.5 years, and finally bought a flower for each of the 834 girls at his school, simply because he wanted them to feel joy. If you've consumed coconut oil or coconut meat recently, there is a reasonable chance it was imported from Thailand. Thailand has been raising and training pig-tailed macaques to pick coconuts for about 400 years. In fact, a male monkey can collect an average of 1,600 coconuts per day, and a female can gather around 600, while a human can only collect about 80 at most per day. When the best soccer player in the world, Cristiano Ronaldo, was asked to donate his cleats for a charity auction benefiting Eric Ortiz Cruz, a 10-month-old who had a brain disorder that could cause him 30 seizures a day, he instead personally paid the full $83,000 for his surgery. Spain cheated at the Summer Paralympic Games in 2000. 10 of the 12 players on its roster were encouraged to pretend they had an intellectual disability, when in fact they had no such disability. Graffiti artist David Cho, who painted Facebook's first office in 2005, was paid in stock and now has a net worth of more than $200 million. Häagen-Dazs ice cream was founded in 1961 by Reuben and Rose Mattis, two Polish Jewish immigrants in the Bronx, New York. They invented the Danish-sounding name as a tribute to Denmark's exemplary treatment of Jews during World War II and included a map outline of Denmark on the early labels. There is a Santa Claus University in Los Angeles that teaches professional Santa Claus skills, such as toy knowledge, poses, and how to avoid a lawsuit. Oh, but before you laugh at them, a high-level Santa Claus can actually earn up to $100,000 a year. Ho ho ho! Who is laughing now? The first attempt to assassinate a president of the United States was carried out by Richard Lawrence, an unemployed house painter, when he fired at Andrew Jackson, but his weapon failed. The attack occurred in 1835, and surprisingly, both of the attackers' pistols failed at the moment of firing. Jackson was not injured and, according to accounts, even lunged at his attacker before he was restrained, making the incident one of the most unusual in American political history. Owen, a baby hippopotamus from Kenya, was separated from his mother during a tsunami. He then mistook a 130-year-old tortoise for another hippo, and the two actually became best friends. The Sacramento Public Library started a Library of Things in early 2016, which allowed users to check out, among other things, sewing machines and other items that users may find useful but might not need to own long-term. During the war in Afghanistan, when his team was ambushed, outnumbered, and under fire, British Corporal Sean Jones ordered his men to fix bayonets on their rifles and charge across 262 feet of open ground against Taliban forces. Incredibly, it worked. The enemy forces scattered, fleeing the fight due to the unexpected move. In Japan, people sentenced to death do not always know in advance the exact date of their execution. In many cases, notification is given on the same day, meaning they live with uncertainty about when it will happen. A fire hydrant in San Francisco that survived the 1906 earthquake and helped firefighters save the Mission District was painted gold in memory of the event. The mineral jadarite, discovered in a Serbian mine, has the same chemical composition as kryptonite described in Superman movies. Its formula matches the one shown in fiction, although in reality it does not glow green or have supernatural effects. The discovery drew attention precisely because of this coincidence, becoming a scientific curiosity that unexpectedly connects the real world with popular culture. A panda nanny is a real job where you can spend 365 days a year with baby pandas for an annual salary of $32,000. This type of job is usually offered at conservation centers in China, where the work includes feeding, cleaning, and monitoring the development of the cubs. In addition, those who perform it must learn about animal behavior and collaborate in programs that aim to increase the giant panda population. Shark teeth are coated with fluoride, which acts like toothpaste and keeps the shark's mouth healthy and clean. Fish are friends, not food. This natural coating helps their teeth be more resistant to corrosion from saltwater, something uncommon in other animals. In addition, sharks constantly replace their teeth throughout their lives, allowing them to always maintain sharp and functional teeth for feeding effectively. In 2001, the uncle of a boy named Jesse Arbogast fought a 7-foot bull shark to recover his nephew's severed arm. After saving Jesse, the uncle dove back in, grabbed the shark, and fought it to shore, where a park ranger shot it. The arm was removed from its throat, placed on ice, rushed to the hospital, and, incredibly, successfully reattached. At 12 years old, Shia LaBeouf found an agent in the Yellow Pages and was accepted after pretending to be his own manager. Believe it or not, socks are among the most needed items in homeless shelters, but they are among the least frequently donated. This is because they wear out quickly and are not usually used for hygiene reasons. Shelters constantly request them because they help prevent infections, blisters, and skin problems, especially in people who spend a lot of time walking or exposed to harsh conditions. All unmarked swans swimming in open waters in England legally belong to the British Crown, a tradition that dates back to the Middle Ages, when these birds were considered a luxury delicacy reserved for the nobility. Although they are no longer consumed today, the right still remains and is maintained mainly for symbolic and conservation purposes. Each year, an official census called swan upping is carried out on the River Thames to monitor their population and health. Residents of the village of Shitterton in England became so tired of people stealing the town sign that they replaced it with a 3,307-pound block of stone with the town's name carved into it. The reality show The Voice has not yet created any new singing stars, but it has effectively revitalized the careers of its celebrity judges. Photographer Anton Geiger creates images of cell phones sucking people's faces in to reflect our self-alienation in the constant use of mobile devices. The average human scalp has 100,000 hair follicles. The amounts can vary depending on genetic factors and hair color, with higher density being more common in people with lighter hair. Each follicle produces a hair that grows in cycles, alternating between growth, rest, and shedding phases, which explains why it is normal to lose dozens of hairs per day without it representing a problem. In 2002, the case of a Croatian diver who became lost inside an underwater cave was reported. With no clear exit and limited air, he faced an extreme situation underwater. This case is often mentioned as one of the first documented instances of a person who, under very difficult circumstances during a dive, made a desperate decision. This man is referred to only as PH. He has a neurological condition that causes his vision, touch, and hearing to be out of sync. He actually hears people speak before he sees their lips move and can hear his own voice before feeling the movements of his own jaw. Caterpillars become completely liquid inside a cocoon, but as a moth or butterfly, they can still remember their life as a caterpillar. During metamorphosis, much of their tissue reorganizes into a completely different structure, but some groups of cells survive and help form the new body. Experiments have shown that certain learned associations in the larval stage can persist after transformation. suggesting a surprising continuity in their nervous system. In 1938, Time magazine named Adolf Hitler Person of the Year. This recognition did not imply admiration, but rather highlighted the individual who had the most influence on world events at that time. That year was marked by rising tensions in Europe and political decisions that would change the course of history, which led to his impact being considered decisive on the international stage. It gets so cold during Minnesota winters that Tom Grodding began sculpting frozen denim jeans to entertain his neighbors, and the trend actually spread throughout his town, reached the northeastern United States, landed on the internet, and now the sculptures are popular worldwide. The proboscis, or nose of a mosquito, has 47 sharp edges at its tip to help cut the skin and can even pierce protective clothing. The tree that owns itself is a white oak in Athens, Georgia, which is supposedly legally the owner of itself and the 8 feet of land that surround it. According to newspapers, a deed written by Colonel William Jackson granted the tree ownership of the land in the 1800s. Our eyes are always the same size from birth, but our noses and ears never stop growing. In reality, the eyes grow a little during childhood and then stabilize, while the nose and ears change over time due to cartilage elasticity and the effects of aging. This makes these parts of the face appear larger over the years compared to the rest of the face. 10 squats will get you a free subway ticket in Mexico City. The government offers this to residents in hopes of combating obesity in the country, where 70% of adults are overweight. Statistics from the American Cancer Society show that the cancer mortality rate in the United States has steadily declined over the past decades. Since its peak in 1991, mortality has dropped significantly thanks to advances in early detection, better treatments, and a reduction in risk factors such as smoking. By the early 2000s, millions of deaths were already estimated to have been avoided, and more recent updates raised that number to more than 3 million lives saved since 1991. French artist Travis Durden combines the heads of popular Star Wars characters with the bodies of classical Greek statues. The father of actress Candice Bergen left $10,000 to his ventriloquist dummy and zero to her. He said the dummy had been his constant companion, from whom he had never been separated, not even for a single day. The dummy even had its own bedroom. There is a town in Kerala, India called Kodinhi, with only 2,000 families and around 200 pairs of twins, and no one knows why this high frequency of multiple births occurs. Researchers have studied factors such as genetics, diet, and environment, but so far there is no definitive explanation. This phenomenon has made the place a point of scientific and cultural interest. The medication Truvada has been shown to be highly effective in preventing HIV infection when used as pre-exposure prophylaxis, reaching protection rates above 90% in people who take it consistently. Its effectiveness has also been observed in intravenous drug users, although it largely depends on adherence to the treatment. In recent years, awareness and access have increased, but significant barriers still exist, such as lack of knowledge, stigma, and limited access in some regions. A man named Nigel Richards from Malaysia memorized the French dictionary to win the French Scrabble Championship, and he does not even speak French. He managed to master thousands of word combinations based solely on patterns and spelling, without needing to understand their meaning. His achievement is considered one of the most impressive in the world of word games, and he has repeated similar successes in other languages. Japan was invaded by the powerful Mongol army twice, and on both occasions, they were saved by severe storms that crippled the Mongols. They called these storms kamikaze, or divine winds. These events occurred in the 13th century during the invasion attempts ordered by Kublai Khan, and the storms destroyed much of the invading fleets. Over time, the term kamikaze became associated with the idea of divine protection, and centuries later, it was used again in a completely different context during World War II. According to a survey, 51% of people believe that sharing a Netflix password with a partner means the relationship is serious. Well, yeah, it is Netflix and chill, man. You know what I mean. Artist Casey Zavilia uses only thread on a canvas to create finely embroidered photorealistic portraits. Martha Stewart once dated Anthony Hopkins, but broke up with him after watching The Silence of the Lambs. She stated that she could not avoid associating Hopkins with the character Hannibal Lecter. In 1928, the founder of the Kodak company was so frustrated by the different number of days in each month that he insisted the company operate on a 13-month year. Each month had exactly 4 weeks, and they did it that way until 1989. That is strange. Like fingerprints, each person's tongue print is different. Its surface has unique patterns of grooves, shape, and texture that can vary even between twins. Although it is not a common method, its use in biometric identification systems has been explored, since the tongue is an organ protected inside the body and less exposed to damage or external changes than other physical features. A hungry sea lion pup once entered a fancy restaurant in San Diego and sat at a front table with an ocean view. The creator of The Big Bang Theory and Two and a Half Men, Chuck Lorre, wrote the theme song for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Before becoming one of the most successful television producers, he worked as a composer and participated in animation projects. This early stage of his career shows how he developed creative skills in different areas of entertainment before achieving success in television comedies. To lose 63 pounds for his role in The Machinist, Christian Bale's daily diet consisted of 1 can of tuna and 1 apple per day, black coffee, and water. This extreme physical transformation was carefully supervised and drew a lot of attention for the level of discipline required. After filming, the actor quickly regained weight for other roles, showing his ability to adapt to different characters. Lizards can self-amputate their tails to protect themselves, and they grow back after just a few months. This mechanism, known as autotomy, allows them to distract predators while they escape, since the detached tail can continue moving for a while. The new tail usually has a simpler structure than the original, but it fulfills basic functions, such as balance and energy storage. Paula Abdul choreographed the piano scene in the movie Big. Michigan judge Hugh Clark held himself in contempt after his own smartphone rang in court. Stress literally kills your brain. Studies have found that months of exposure to stress can permanently destroy neurons in your brain, affecting learning, impulse control, reasoning, and memory. This effect has been linked to elevated levels of cortisol, a hormone that, in excess, can damage key structures such as the hippocampus. In addition, chronic stress can also alter sleep and concentration, worsening its impact on long-term mental functioning. People throw approximately $4.5 million into fountains and wishing wells every year. In many places, these coins are not wasted, as they are often collected and used for charitable causes or maintenance of public spaces. Some famous fountains gather large amounts daily, turning a symbolic tradition into a real source of support for different causes. Self-discipline predicts success better than intelligence quotient, according to research conducted by scientists. Various studies have found that the ability to stay focused, delay rewards, and maintain consistent habits has a greater influence on long-term achievements than cognitive ability alone. This trait is also associated with better academic results, emotional stability, and greater persistence in the face of difficulties, making it a key factor in different areas of life. The blue whale is the largest creature to have ever lived on Earth. Its tongue alone can weigh as much as an elephant, and its heart as much as a car. It can reach lengths greater than 98 feet and feeds almost exclusively on tiny krill, filtering enormous amounts of water with its baleen. Despite its size, its diet is based on very small organisms, making it an impressive example of efficiency in nature. There is an artist named Marius Kaderix who was born without arms but never gave up on his dreams and has won world awards for his photorealistic portrait drawings. He developed his technique using his feet, achieving an impressive level of detail that has been recognized in various exhibitions. His work stands out not only for its artistic quality, but also for the discipline and consistency required to refine his style over time. When a cat rubs its face on an object, it is not just scratching, it is actually leaving its own scent. Cats have glands located around the mouth, chin, sides of the face, neck, and ears. This is called marking. Norwegian student Christopher Koch spent about $27 on Bitcoin in 2009, when it was just beginning to gain attention. He then completely forgot about that investment, and years later discovered that its value had skyrocketed to hundreds of thousands of dollars. A third-grade girl was expelled for a year because her grandmother sent her birthday cake to school along with a knife to cut it. The teacher used the knife to cut the cake and then reported the girl to authorities for having a dangerous weapon. There are tea bags that make it look like a goldfish is swimming in your cup. Soviet tenor Viktor Ivanovich Nikitin was so good that when he sang for Soviet troops on the Eastern Front during the Second World War, German troops on the other side stopped shooting just to listen. Vultures with GoPros and GPS trackers are used to find illegal dumping sites in Peru. These devices allow their routes to be tracked and help detect places where they tend to feed, which helps identify areas with poorly managed waste. The strategy takes advantage of the natural behavior of these scavenger birds and has become an innovative tool to monitor environmental impact in areas that are difficult to supervise directly. The steamboat Ereiba, which sank in 1856, was excavated in 1988 under nearly 46 feet of soil in a field and a farm. Interestingly, many artifacts were recovered and preserved so well that some of the food was still edible. Montpelier, Vermont is the only state capital without a McDonald's. Despite being a capital, it is one of the smallest cities in that category in the United States, with a relatively small population compared to other capitals. Its size and focus on local businesses have influenced the absence of large chains, giving it a quieter and more distinctive atmosphere within the country. In 2001, a lion cub, a bear cub, and a tiger cub were found neglected in the basement of a trafficker, but they have lived together ever since. They were adopted by a sanctuary and are considered inseparable due to the strong bond they share. 27 animals died on set during the filming of the Hobbit trilogy. This raised concern among animal rights organizations. These situations led to public criticism and calls to improve conditions and supervision in film productions, promoting greater attention to animal welfare in the industry. Wildlife photographer Alan McFadden spent 4,200 hours and took 720,000 photos over a period of 6 years before he finally got the perfect shot of a kingfisher diving into the water without splashing. Mountain Dew is an old slang term used to refer to illegal liquor. In mountainous regions of the United States, especially in the Appalachians, it was used to name illegally distilled alcohol known as moonshine. Decades later, the name was adopted by a soft drink that was originally created as a mixer for that type of liquor, before becoming a popular brand on its own. In Beijing, there was a restaurant called Gu Li Shuang that offered a very unusual menu, based on ingredients that are not common in traditional cuisine. Diana Kim, a photographer from Hawaii, who after 10 years of documenting homeless people, found her own father among them. After that encounter, she decided to help him receive treatment and support him in his recovery while continuing her photographic work. The African gray parrot Nkisi has an astonishing vocabulary of 950 words that even impressed the famous primatologist Jane Goodall. Nkisi had seen photos of her and, when they met, asked, "Do you have a chimpanzee?" This type of parrot is known for its ability to mimic sounds and associate words with contexts, which has been the subject of studies on animal cognition and language. The 2011 Japan earthquake was so powerful that it changed the Earth's rotation on its axis and shortened the 24-hour day we know by 1.8 milliseconds. Saskatchewan farmer Lizelle Kennedy thought she had lost her entire herd of 500 sheep, so she drove right past them until she got close enough to realize they had been in front of her the whole time. Toto from The Wizard of Oz was paid $125 per week. This was more than what the actors who played the Munchkins were paid. The dog, whose real name was Terry, was professionally trained and already had experience in film before appearing in the movie. His good behavior on set and his ability to follow precise directions made him one of the most memorable characters in film history. The largest hidden Mickey Mouse is in Mickey's Forest, a 60-acre forest near Walt Disney World that contains more than 50,000 pine trees. A Nestle store in Japan sold Kit Kats coated with edible gold, limited to only 500. They were sold for the equivalent of $16 in the United States. Mexican jumping beans get their movement from a moth larva inside the pod that writhes when it is suddenly heated. This movement is a response to heat, as the larva attempts to move toward cooler areas inside the capsule. The phenomenon is usually observed on sunny days when the ground becomes warm. Happy cows actually produce more milk, and simply calling cows by their individual names increases production by 3.5%. This effect is related to reduced stress and closer interaction with caretakers, which directly influences their well-being. On some farms, calm routines, soft music, and comfortable spaces are used to improve the quality of life of the cattle, which can also be reflected in better milk quality. The only member of the band ZZ Top without a beard had the last name Beard. While his bandmates Billy Gibbons and Dusty Hill became world famous for their long beards, he maintained a cleaner look, or a short mustache, for years. The football huddle was invented at Gallaudet University, a school for the deaf, in 1892, to prevent opposing teams from seeing their sign language. This strategy allowed players to communicate without revealing their plays, and over time, it was adopted by teams across the country. Today, the huddle is a fundamental part of modern American football. It is estimated that the Mexican drug cartel, Caballeros Templarios, earned $152 million per year growing and selling avocados. Rather than directly engaging in cultivation, these groups often intervene in the production and commercialization chain of avocados, a product with high international demand, especially in markets such as the United States. This situation has led to the so-called green gold becoming a sector vulnerable to pressure from organized crime in certain regions. Native American tribes intentionally bent trees to mark trails, and many still remain today as hidden landmarks. These trees were modified when they were still young, guiding their growth to indicate routes, water sources, or important places. Some can still be found in forests across the United States, recognizable by their unusual shapes. Today, there are initiatives to protect them, as they represent an ancestral way of navigating the landscape. 1 out of every 3,000 babies is born with a tooth. These are known as natal teeth, and in most cases, correspond to the lower incisors. Although they may surprise parents, they usually do not represent a serious problem, although they sometimes require medical supervision if they are loose or cause discomfort while feeding. In many cultures, their appearance has historically been seen as a special or unusual sign. In 1723, French naval officer Gabriel de Clieu carried a single coffee plant from France to Martinique, a Caribbean island where it spread and gave rise to 18 million trees in 50 years. Eventually, those trees reached South and Central America. The skull that the Russians kept as evidence of Hitler's death is actually the skull of a woman. The part of the human body that heals the fastest is the tongue. This is due to the rich blood supply the tongue receives, which makes it capable of healing twice as fast as any other part of the body. On August 4, 1922, all telephone lines were cut for 1 full minute in the United States and Canada in honor of the death of Alexander Graham Bell. A Chinese billionaire businessman named Jiang Suya decided to demolish deteriorated huts in the village where he grew up and build luxury apartments, then give the keys to the residents for free. Ukrainian engineer Vladimir Tatarenko has designed an airplane with a detachable cabin. In the event of an emergency, the cabin separates, deploys parachutes, and safely lowers passengers to the ground or water. Dogs feel more vulnerable when they are defecating, so they seek protection from their owners, which often results in awkward stares. At that moment, they lower their guard and trust their surroundings, which is why they tend to make eye contact to make sure there is no danger nearby. This behavior is related to their survival instincts, inherited from their wild ancestors, where staying alert in vulnerable situations was essential. The horse head used in The Godfather was a real horse head, not a prop. John Marley was not informed beforehand, so his scream was authentic and not in the script. Coffee beans are not actually beans. They are fruit seeds. They come from inside the coffee cherry, a fruit that grows on tropical shrubs and, when ripe, usually has a deep red color. After harvesting, these seeds go through drying, fermentation, and roasting processes that develop their characteristic flavor, giving rise to the wide variety of aromatic profiles found in coffee around the world. After Marilyn Monroe's death, Joe DiMaggio was so devastated that he held a private funeral, excluding all of Hollywood's elite, and delivered roses to her grave 3 times a week for more than 20 years. He never remarried, and his last words were, "Finally, I will be able to see Marilyn." In 1989, Disney forced 3 daycare centers to remove a mural of Mickey, Donald, and Goofy under threat of legal action. Cheetah cubs have long, tall hairs that run from their neck to the base of their tail, called a mantle. This makes a cheetah cub resemble a honey badger and helps them blend in with tall grass, keeping them safe from threats such as lions and hyenas. The spider Calpurnia harrisonfordi was named after the star of Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars, as a thank you to Harrison Ford, who narrated a documentary for the Natural History Museum of London in 1994. The spider itself was discovered in 1993 and is very small, only about 0.2 inches long. Tim Hawking added swear words to his father Stephen Hawking's voice synthesizer as a joke. Michael Nicholson, a man from Michigan, has a bachelor's degree, 2 associate degrees, 22 master's degrees, 3 specialist degrees, and a doctorate, making him the person with the most credentials in history. Momentary ink prints your tattoo designs as custom temporary tattoos that last from 3 to 10 days, so you can try your ideas before committing to one. In 2012, a woman named Rebecca Spite from Dakota City successfully sold a chicken McNugget on eBay for $8,100 because it simply looked like George Washington. All new employees and recently promoted executives at the Japanese company Denso have to climb Mount Fuji. This has happened every July since 1925. This tradition aims to foster discipline, teamwork, and resilience among participants. The climb is usually done in groups and is considered a symbolic experience of personal growth within Japanese corporate culture. In addition, Mount Fuji is an iconic place, which reinforces a sense of identity and belonging. Throughout his life, the artist Vincent van Gogh sold exactly one painting, The Red Vineyard at Arles. The work was purchased in 1890 by the artist Anne Boch during an exhibition in Brussels. Although he had little commercial recognition in his time, today his paintings are among the most valued in the world, and his style deeply influenced the development of modern art, especially in the use of color and emotional expression. A person who sleeps too much, sits too much, and is not active enough is more than 4 times more likely to die prematurely. This risk is associated with sedentary lifestyles that affect the cardiovascular system, metabolism, and overall health. Remaining inactive for long periods can contribute to issues such as obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. So, incorporating regular physical activity and active breaks throughout the day is recommended. Michael Jordan's number 23 was retired by the Miami Heat, even though he never played for them. The franchise made this decision in recognition of his impact on basketball and his global influence on the sport. It is an unusual case in the NBA, where retired numbers usually belong to players who were part of the team. In January 2016, McDonald's Japan introduced for a limited time fries topped with 2 types of chocolate sauce. Heart attack. Pablo Escobar used to cheat at Monopoly games with his children, hiding extra money in advance near where he planned to sit. Anonymous sent thousands of completely black faxes to the Church of Scientology to drain all their ink cartridges. That is expensive. This action was part of a series of digital protests known as Project Chanology, where the anonymous collective used unconventional methods to draw attention. In addition to the faxes, they also carried out public demonstrations and online campaigns, marking one of the first major coordinated movements of online activism. The pound key on your keyboard, or hashtag as you know it, is called an octothorpe. The name combines octo, for its 8 points, and thorpe, an old term whose exact origin is not entirely clear. Although for years it was mainly used in telephony, its popularity grew enormously with social media, where the symbol became a way to group topics, trends, and conversations around the world. Neil Harbison is the world's first cyborg artist. He has an antenna implanted in his skull that allows him to hear color and see sound. Oh, and he can also connect to nearby devices, such as Bluetooth and the internet. Jackie Chan is the highest-paid actor in Asia. His success does not only come from his action films, but also from his involvement in production, direction, and business deals. Throughout his career, he has built a global brand that combines film, entertainment, and business, which has allowed him to remain one of the most influential and profitable figures in the film industry in the region. A dog named Greyfriars Bobby, in Scotland, remained by his owner's grave for 14 years until he finally passed away. The word stewardesses is the longest word typed using only the left hand. This curiosity is often mentioned in relation to the QWERTY keyboard layout in English, where all its letters are located on that side. For this reason, it often appears in lists of linguistic and typing oddities, along with other striking words remembered more for how they are written than for their everyday meaning. Tony Iommi began tuning his guitar lower after an accident that cut off the tips of 2 of his fingers, thus creating the signature sound of Black Sabbath. During cold winters, the Alaskan wood frog turns into a frog-shaped block of ice. It literally stops breathing, and its heart stops beating. Then, when spring arrives, the frog thaws, returns to normal, and continues on its way. This incredible process is possible thanks to substances such as glucose and urea, which act as natural antifreeze in its tissues. These protect its cells from damage caused by ice, allowing it to survive extremely low temperatures. There is something called geographic tongue, which is actually a real health condition with a map-like characteristic on the tongue and, in some cases, throughout the mouth. It appears as irregular areas that change shape and location over time, creating that distinctive appearance. Although it can cause sensitivity to certain foods, it is generally harmless and is not related to infections, and it usually appears and disappears without the need for treatment. Hong Kong businessman Cecil Chow once offered $20 million as an incentive for his daughter to find a male partner after her relationship with another woman became publicly known. There is a species of butterfly known as the 8998 butterfly. It is named for its markings, which astonishingly resemble the number 89 on one wing and the number 98 on the other. This curious pattern is best seen when it keeps its wings closed, showing a contrasting black and white design. It mainly inhabits jungles in Central and South America, where its camouflage helps it blend into the environment and go unnoticed by potential predators. More salt is used to de-ice roads, 8% of the salt produced worldwide, than for human consumption, which is only 6%. This use is key in regions with severe winters, as salt lowers the freezing point of water and helps prevent ice formation on roads. However, it can also have environmental effects, such as soil salinization and damage to vegetation near roads. Rosemary Kennedy, the older sister of John F. Kennedy, was lobotomized at the age of just 23. But the operation failed and left her permanently incapacitated. However, that event inspired her sister, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, to launch the Special Olympics. Never place a cucumber behind your cat. Why? Well, because it is stressful for the cat to find a new object in its territory, and it could leave it anxious for days. Cats rely heavily on the stability of their environment, so a surprise like that can trigger intense alert responses. Repeating this type of stimulus can affect their well-being, altering their behavior, appetite, or sleep routines, especially in more sensitive cats or those living in small spaces. In 1896, the world's first speeding ticket was issued to a British man who was driving at 4 times the speed limit. Walter Arnold, who was going 8 miles per hour in a 2 miles per hour zone, was caught by a police officer on a bicycle and fined 1 shilling, which was about 8 cents in United States currency. Andrei Siskaliski, 18 years old, was arrested for climbing the Great Pyramid of Giza and taking photos, which he shared with his thousands of followers who love watching him travel the world just to climb things. Male platypuses have venomous spurs and can even sense electromagnetic fields, just like a fish. The venom is located in spurs on their hind legs and can cause intense pain, especially during mating season. In addition, their ability to detect electrical signals allows them to locate prey underwater, even with their eyes, ears, and nose closed, making them very efficient hunters. When a coal mine catches fire, it can burn for decades or even centuries. There are thousands of these fires around the world. Some began due to natural causes, such as spontaneous combustion, while others originated from human activity. These fires can release toxic gases and cause the ground to sink over time. A famous case is that of Centralia in Pennsylvania, where an underground fire active since the 1960s turned the place into almost a ghost town. Throughout its life, an oyster changes from male to female and back several times. This process depends on factors such as age, size, and environmental conditions, allowing them to adapt to maximize reproductive success. In many cases, they begin as males, and as they grow and accumulate more resources, they become females, since producing eggs requires more energy, making this change especially advantageous. There is a group of people in Japan called cyber homeless, who live in internet cafes because they are actually a cheaper alternative than an apartment, and the cafes offer free showers and sell underwear. This phenomenon, known as internet cafe refugees, has been observed in cities like Tokyo, where the high cost of housing pushes some people to choose these spaces. Many of these establishments are open 24 hours and offer private booths with internet access, food, and basic amenities. The animated film Sleeping Beauty took so long to make that Walt Disney became bored with it and redirected his energy toward creating Disneyland. In fact, the iconic Sleeping Beauty castle was built in the center of the park as promotion for the film's eventual debut only 4 years later. Every time you remember an event, your brain distorts it a little. Basically, when you remember something that happened in the past, you are actually just remembering the last time you remembered it, and so on. This process is known as memory reconsolidation, where the memory is stored again with slight modifications. Factors such as emotions, context, or even new experiences can influence these changes, causing memories to evolve over time. Each week, about 50 dogs and cats are transported from Houston to Colorado to avoid euthanasia. This type of transfer program connects overcrowded shelters with others where there is higher demand for adoption, significantly increasing the chances that these animals will find a home. Volunteers and organizations collaborate in the logistics, covering long distances to give them a second chance. The platypus does not have nipples, and the milk simply seeps from its skin. The young lick the milk that accumulates in the mother's fur as it is secreted through special glands in the abdominal area. This mammal also lays eggs, making it an evolutionary rarity along with echidnas. In addition, it has a sensitive bill capable of detecting electrical signals in the water to locate prey. To punish tree thieves who illegally cut down trees, some cities spray the trees with fox urine around Christmas time. It freezes on them and has no smell outdoors, but it would stink up your whole house if you brought it inside. The smell is apparently so strong that it makes your eyes water. Sir Isaac Newton predicted that the world would end in 2060. The University of Pennsylvania has produced 25 billionaires, the highest number of any university in the world. This fact is often linked to its strong focus on business and finance, especially through the Wharton School. In addition, its extensive alumni network and professional connections have helped drive successful careers across different sectors, from technology to investments. There is an inverse color blindness test where only people who are colorblind can see what the hidden image is. These images use color combinations that blend together for most people, but that those with certain variations in color perception can distinguish more easily. This type of test is also used experimentally to study how different people process colors and differences in human vision. The original balloons from Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade were released into the air after the parade because Macy's did not know what to do with them. However, they included a ticket that fell to the ground after they burst. If you found the ticket, you could redeem it for a prize at Macy's. Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus retired all of its elephants from the show, starting on May 1, 2016. All of the elephants were sent to a reserve in Florida, where they can help with cancer research, since they have a special gene called P53 that helps fight this disease. The city of Lexington, Kentucky, allows residents to pay parking fines with donations of canned food during the holiday season. This initiative aims to support local food banks and is usually activated on specific dates, gathering thousands of items that are later distributed among families in need. In addition to easing minor penalties, it encourages community participation and turns an everyday infraction into an opportunity for collective help. There was a newborn baby who was abandoned in a forest in Kenya for 2 days in the year 2005, who was rescued by a stray dog. She carried the baby to her own litter of puppies. A statue of a homeless Jesus sleeping on a bench was installed in Orlando, where homeless people were banned from sleeping on benches. The former apprentice of designer Alexander McQueen, Emma Sandom King, made the world's first Harris tweed suit designed for a horse to celebrate the Cheltenham Festival in 2016. It took her 4 weeks and more than 59 feet of tweed to complete the three-piece suit, which was worn by a racehorse named Morstead. Compared to a cigarette, a hookah session delivers about 25 times more tar, 2.5 times more nicotine, and 10 times more carbon monoxide. This is partly due to the length of sessions and the volume of smoke inhaled, which is usually much greater. Although many people believe that the water filters harmful substances, it actually does not remove most of the toxic compounds present in the smoke. There is a humpback whale that has been tracked by Greenpeace since 2008 called Mr. Splashy Pants. The name came from an online vote to name a whale that would be followed as part of a campaign against commercial whaling. The initiative had strong public participation and helped raise global awareness about the protection of these marine species. Singles Day in China is the largest online shopping day in the world, as people without partners celebrate by buying gifts for themselves. It is celebrated on November 11th due to the repetition of the number 1, and over time, it has become a massive event driven by digital platforms. The deals last several days and generate sales figures that far exceed other major commercial dates worldwide. The term swan song comes from an ancient belief that a swan remains silent throughout its life until it sings a beautiful song just before dying. This idea dates back to ancient Greece, where philosophers like Plato mentioned it in their writings. Over time, the expression came to be used symbolically to describe a person's final memorable work or performance before retiring or passing away. Justo Gallego Martinez, a former monk aged 90 years, has been building an unauthorized cathedral in Spain since 1961. He works mostly alone for 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Approximately half of the koalas in Australia have chlamydia. In fact, their strain of koala chlamydia can also infect humans, so do not get too close to any koala. When Paris fell to the Nazis in 1940, French soldiers cut the cables of the Eiffel Tower elevator. They did this so that if Hitler wanted to raise a swastika flag, they would have to climb hundreds of steps to reach the top. Brilliant. You can actually correct your vision while you sleep. Orthokeratology lenses reshape your corneas overnight, so you do not need to wear corrective lenses while you are awake. When you remove them in the morning, you can see as clearly as you would with prescription lenses. Studies conducted by the Global Coalition on Aging and the Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies show that traveling is good for you. It promotes brain health and reduces the risk of heart attack and depression. Boa constrictors have the ability to sense the heartbeats of their prey. If it detects a heartbeat, the snake will apply more pressure until it no longer feels one. This process occurs thanks to their high sensitivity to vibrations and direct contact with the prey's body. In addition, their technique is fast and efficient, as they adjust the pressure precisely, allowing them to immobilize their target in a short time without using more energy than necessary. Inspired by the viral photo of Donald Trump wearing a man bun, Design Crowd organized a Photoshop contest to see what past and present politicians would look like if they had one. The results are unsettling. Japan now has retirement homes for elderly dogs so they can receive the love and proper care they need in their final years. These centers offer specialized attention, with staff trained in animal health, gentle therapies, and constant monitoring. In many cases, they also provide rehabilitation services and adapted activities to maintain mobility and well-being, reflecting how aging pets have become a priority within the country's care culture. There is an aquarium in Japan called Keikyu Abudatsubo Marine Park, where you are allowed to shake hands with otters. This interaction is carried out under supervision and is part of activities designed to bring visitors closer to marine life. Otters, known for their curious and social behavior, tend to respond to stimuli such as touch and play, which makes the experience especially appealing for visitors. The word canvas was derived from the Latin word cannabis. Canvas made from hemp was quite popular among artists who needed an inexpensive writing material until the late 18th century. Adele does not post directly on her social media, as her team manages her accounts to avoid impulsive messages. This is because, in her early days on platforms like Twitter, she herself admitted that she used to write without a filter, which could cause problems. Even so, her authentic and spontaneous style remains one of the reasons she connects so well with her audience. When Turkish photojournalist Osman Sagirli took this photo of a 4-year-old girl in Syria, she thought the camera was a weapon and raised her arms to surrender. The photo went viral after Palestine-based photojournalist Nadia Abu Shaban tweeted the image. Mark Spitz, a 9-time Olympic champion, jokingly told the coach of the Russian swimming team in 1972 that his mustache increased his speed in the water by deflecting it away from his mouth. The following year, all the Russian swimmers had mustaches. There is an aromatic cup that tricks your brain into believing that plain water is actually flavored with citrus, apples, berries, peaches, or cola. The invention, called Right Cup, was launched on Indiegogo in early 2016 with the hope that people would drink more water if it had a more exciting flavor. There is an island called Hans Island, which is a disputed territory between Canada and Denmark. Military personnel from both countries visit it periodically to remove the other's flag and leave a bottle of Danish schnapps or Canadian whiskey. Political opponents of Andrew Jackson referred to him as a donkey, so he adopted the name and used it as a symbol of his campaign. Eventually, it would become the symbol of the entire Democratic Party in America. The Gombe-Chimpanzee War was a conflict between two communities of chimpanzees in Tanzania that lasted 4 years and included violent skirmishes, numerous deaths, and kidnappings. This event was documented by primatologist Jane Goodall and changed the scientific perception of these animals, showing that they can exhibit complex and aggressive behaviors within their social groups. Mickey Mouse has a brand recognition of 97%, which is higher than that of Santa Claus. This level of familiarity has been built over decades through movies, theme parks, and products around the world. Since his debut in 1928, the character has remained relevant, becoming one of the most recognizable symbols of global entertainment. A Starbucks in St. Augustine, which is home to the Florida School for the Deaf and the Blind, has employees who use sign language through a 2-way video system so that deaf people can place their order at the drive-thru. Icelanders consume more Coca-Cola per capita than any other nation. This habit has been maintained for decades and is part of everyday life, especially during gatherings and family meals. Even in winter, when temperatures are very low, consumption does not decrease. The drink arrived in the country in the mid-20th century and quickly became popular, adapting to the local lifestyle and becoming one of the most common options in stores and restaurants. If your friend has trouble waking up, there is a sonic grenade alarm clock that might work. Just pull the pin, throw it into their room, and take cover. It emits a deafening noise that they cannot turn off until you put the pin back in. That just sounds cruel. In 1994, a man named Tony Chicoria was struck by lightning while standing next to a public payphone and was revived by a nurse who was waiting to use that same phone. Not long after his recovery, he noticed his head was filled with music, so he went out and bought a piano. He is now a successful composer and performer. The Reconnect Notebook is a magnetic journal that allows you to remove, reattach, and reorganize pages whenever you want. There is a small penis rule that authors use to protect themselves against defamation lawsuits, stating that a character they based on another person has a small penis, which prevents most people from wanting to associate themselves with the character they are suing over. The Atlas butterfly defends itself by mimicking the appearance and behavior of a snake. Along with convincing wing patterns, the moth will drop to the ground when threatened and thrash around to resemble a writhing snake. The tips of its wings resemble a snake's head, reinforcing the deception against potential predators. In addition, it is one of the largest moths in the world, and its size helps make this illusion even more intimidating in its natural environment. Papa Devada, a restaurant in Kochi, India, has placed a working refrigerator outside so customers can leave leftovers for other people in need. At 52 years old, Bill Wyman of the Rolling Stones married Mandy Smith, who was 18 years old, but they divorced after 1 year. Bill's son Stephen, who was 30 years old, then married Mandy's mother, who was 46 years old. If Bill and Mandy had remained married, Stephen would have been his father's father-in-law and his own grandfather. According to veterinarian Joyce Harmon, horses can safely drink alcohol due to their enormous mass. However, this is not part of a common or recommended practice, since alcohol can affect their coordination, behavior, and digestive system. In veterinary contexts, any substance administered is carefully controlled, and the animal's well-being always depends on responsible handling supervised by professionals. Laws in the United States and Europe say that travelers must be compensated if their flight is canceled or delayed. But only a small number of eligible travelers try to claim their money. In Europe, compensation can reach several hundred euros, depending on the distance and the delay, while in the United States, it usually depends more on the airline's policy. Many people do not file claims due to lack of awareness or because the process seems complicated, although today there are tools that make it easier. In some species of turtles, temperature determines whether the egg will become male or female. Lower temperatures produce a male, while higher temperatures produce a female. This phenomenon occurs during a critical stage of development inside the nest, and small variations can completely change the outcome. In several regions, rising environmental temperatures have led to mostly female births, which has prompted conservation programs that monitor and adjust incubation conditions to maintain population balance. Steve Jobs' biological father was a Syrian immigrant. His name was Abdul Fattah Jandali, and he came to the United States to study at a university. Although he was not part of Jobs' life during his childhood, his story reflects the diverse origins that can be behind influential figures in technology. Super Mario was originally known as Jumpman. This name appeared in the arcade game Donkey Kong in 1981, where the character did not yet have his definitive identity. Later, he was renamed Mario, supposedly in honor of Mario Segale, a landlord associated with Nintendo's offices in the United States, and over time, he became one of the most recognized icons in video games. A horse's eyes can move independently, giving it panoramic vision. Thanks to the lateral position of its eyes, it can observe almost its entire surroundings without turning its head, allowing it to detect potential threats quickly. This wide field of vision includes small blind spots just in front of its nose and behind its head, so it often moves its neck to better focus on what interests it. A yoctosecond is 1/1000th of a second and is comparable to the time it takes light to travel across an atomic nucleus. At such tiny scales, fundamental processes of particle physics are studied, such as the behavior of electrons and photons in extremely brief interactions. These intervals allow scientists to observe phenomena that were previously impossible to measure, opening the door to experiments with ultra-fast lasers capable of capturing events in almost unimaginable timeframes. Sarcasm is believed to increase the creativity of all parties involved in a conversation. Some studies suggest that understanding and using sarcasm activates more complex mental processes as it forces people to interpret implicit and non-literal meanings. In work environments, its moderate use can stimulate more original ideas, as long as there is trust between people. However, its effect can vary depending on culture and the relationship between those involved. In Jupiter, Florida, a man threw a live alligator through the drive-through window of a Wendy's after the cashier handed him his drink. He admitted to picking up the 3-foot 6-inch long alligator from the side of the road and was charged with aggravated assault, illegal possession, and transport of an alligator. David Spade's brother Andy co-founded the design brand Kate Spade in New York with his wife Kate. The company began as a small line of handbags in the 1990s and quickly gained popularity for its colorful and elegant style, becoming a reference point for accessible fashion. Over time, the brand expanded its catalog to clothing, accessories, and home goods, establishing its presence internationally.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.